Hello, everyone. I am here with Megan O'Keefe, and she's the executive director at um, Caregiver Volunteers. And we're so happy to have you here with us. And thank you so much for taking part in this interview. And so if you could just give us a little bit of a background on your position at Caregiver Volunteers and a little bit of information about the organization.
Why certainly. So, as Nicole mentioned, I'm the executive director over here at Caregiver Volunteers of Central Jersey. And I took this post in February of 2020, and needless to say, a lot of things have changed since then. So what our organization does is we provide supportive services to seniors who are 60 years old and no longer driving. And we do this all through our wonderful volunteers who do things like take them to the doctors, go grocery shopping, do friendly visits, pet therapy, and we also offer respite care to family caregivers who may have a loved one with a chronic illness or Alzheimer's or some other form of dementia. So we have a really broad range of services here. And then in the past, I would say 18 months, we've changed a little bit in the way we provide those services, but all in all, we're still keeping true to that core to do our great work of trying to keep seniors who may have limited resources or support networks living at home a part of their community. And that's what all of our programs are geared towards here, is to help people remain connected. And we have currently about 1,200 volunteers assisting about 2,000 seniors in Ocean and Monmouth counties.
Wow, that's great. Very
It's
good.
a really big scope. Before I came here, I had never heard of an organization like ours having such a broad reach of volunteers, but we've been operating in Ocean County for the past 28 years and in Monmouth County for the past 6. Then people, I think once our volunteers come in and understand how important the work is and find how rewarding it is for them, that's kind of what's given us our longevity and reach. Once you do it, it's addicting.
Sure.
You can't stop.
Sure. And let me just first say that I think that everything that you're doing and your organization is doing is just so wonderful and so helpful to the community. And hopefully more people will hear about it, even with this interview, because before we spoke, I didn't know about the organization. I didn't know about what all you are doing for the community and for the elderly. And it's really, really important work, that you and your organization are doing.
Oh, I appreciate that. And I agree. We're like the best kept secret. So, and we're always looking for volunteers. That's kind of the nature
I'm sure.
of the beast over here. But
so I also wanted to ask you, what are your personal motivations for working in this field, in the social and community care field?
well, that's easy. I think from early on in my career, and I'm not like super far into my career, but I had known I'd always wanted to work in a position where I was helping people. I feel like that's kind of has always been my drive and motivation, and everything else kind of comes secondary. So nonprofit work for me seemed to be the obvious choice. So I've done most of my work in social service and nonprofit development until I found my way here. But I do think it's unique. I get the unique opportunity of every day when going to work, taking those phone calls, knowing that, if we weren't here, they wouldn't get that help. So just being a part of that, I think for me is more satisfying than anything. It just feels good to know, like, at the end of the day, when you wrap up shop, even if it's been crazy and hectic and stressful, I know that Rosemary over in Tom's River is going to get her groceries, or, Jim in Freehold got to ride to that doctor's appointment.
Wow.
And that only happens because of really groups like ours and our staff. So something from Rowan I knew I wanted to be a part of. So I've been a part of many organizations, but this one too, when I made this kind of leap of faith, I do see it every day because I get to take those calls and I get to talk to the people that we help and our volunteers. And it's a very, it's nice to have that every day, even, as everyone's job can be stressful. It's nice to know that
That's
that
true.
stress has a reward on the other end, every day. So I can leave that stress at the office knowing that, there's someone's benefited in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and I am a strong believer myself in volunteering. I myself had volunteered for the Red Cross,
Oh, awesome.
and so we used to run the blood drives in my area, and also volunteered at the homeless shelter. So I know
Yeah.
how rewarding that can be. That type of work, even though you're not getting paid for it, you're paid in other ways of just having that sense of helping and being there for your
Yeah.
community.
It really, for our volunteers, and I think everyone with their busy lifestyles, and you have so many things pulling and asking you for something, or you're trying to get somewhere, it's nice the idea of being able to do something outside yourself and give without the expectation of receiving. I do think for a lot of our volunteers, and for myself, I volunteer with us too. It is very liberating, and knowing that some of the other small things that can get in the way kind of don't matter, and that
Mhm.
when you get down to just being a compassionate person, I think that what it rolls out to, and so many other groups like ours or other nonprofits rely so heavily on volunteers, is just people working to make their communities better. And in this day and age, I do think we need more of it. And I think once people do it, they're hooked. They're lifetime volunteers. But it's just taking that first jump is typically people think, oh, I don't have the time, or oh, not now, later. It doesn't feel right. But it's never going to feel right. It's just something you just got to do. And then
Yeah,
you're like,
and
oh,
that
why
I
haven't
always
I
say that
been?
too. Yeah, it's like it's if you're waiting for the right time to start something, you're never going to have that so-called right time. You just
No.
start.
Yeah. So if you're waiting for a sign, this is it.
Yes, absolutely.
Find
Right.
something near you, and just start to get involved any way you can.
Absolutely. So, I mean, your organization, you all help the elderly community so much. What do you think the growth opportunities are, for your organization in the next few years?
Yeah. So in the next few years now, I guess in light of recent events in this current public health crisis, we found that a lot of our seniors or our clients have very limited support networks. So that's why they need our help. And unfortunately, given a lot of the challenges over the past 18 months, a lot of people are finding themselves in similar positions. And, everyone, mostly the goal is to, be able to continue to age in place in your home around the people and things that you love. But, if you're no longer driving or you're isolated, that makes it really hard. So, especially given this kind of current worldwide circumstance we find ourselves in, we've seen just in the past year the need increase. For even just social companionship. A lot of these seniors that we work with aren't so digitally connected, so they can't hop on a Zoom, and nothing replaces that actual connection, which is so important to everyone's well-being, senior or not. So we find that I think that there's going to be definitely a lot more need for services, or people to have services in their homes so they can avoid, assistive care, nursing homes, to just remain a part of their community, and for people to bridge that gap. I think is going to be a really, really big challenge too, especially over the next couple of years, since we're all kind of used to now sheltering in place and trying
Right.
to find what the new normal is, and going out and being part of the community. But I'm confident that we'll get there. It's just kind of being open and flexible to how that looks, and just keeping in
Sure.
mind that there are people out there that need our help, and what can we do now?
Absolutely. So what would you say are, some of the biggest challenges that you're facing right now in your organization and similar organizations? I know you mentioned, COVID and everything,
Mhm.
but what would you say is like some of the biggest
So
challenges?
for our challenge, and I think for many organizations like ours who rely on volunteers, is being able to connect with volunteers. So finding those people who want to help. So we've done that. We've switched to now new online channels, but it doesn't replace the idea of getting out in the community, and what we see ourselves as great community connectors. So just kind of finding an equal balance of being able to get out there and tell people in person,
Right.
what we do and why it's important, and connecting them and them feeling the connection that ultimately kind of springboards them into volunteerism versus doing things in a completely virtual world. I think as many people are finding out, you kind of reach what the limits are there, and no matter how well you do it, and it's that need for connection, even for us, to our other organizations, our partner organizations in our communities. So if you're not front of mind, again, there are so many things people are being bombarded with. So if you don't have the
Sure.
opportunity to spread your message, that's where it can get really hard and difficult. And organizations like ours are now finding that we have to find new creative ways to navigate that, to stay relevant and stay top of mind, especially when we know that there are people that need help.
True, true. So let's say someone watching this interview is interested in volunteering, or let's say somebody who, maybe just stumbles upon it, right? What would be your advice to somebody who's looking for volunteer opportunities? How would they find you?
So for right now, the best way is just via our website. So it's Caregiver Volunteers with an S.org. And sign up for an info session. So we hold info sessions every week, and you have a chance to talk with a real live person via Zoom,
Right.
and ask questions and see, is this something that's right for me, that would fit, and what's it all about, and what would it take? And then if you're kind of outside our area, I always encourage everyone to volunteer, just even a little bit. And there are sites that you can go on, like Volunteer Match, that will show, given your preferences, this could be the right fit for you. So I just encourage anyone is to get involved. And even if you can, if you have your local church or community group, I know a lot of them have some boots on the ground work that you can do, is reach out and just be proactive and see what there is. You could be surprised. Something could be right up your alley.
That's great. Thank you. I think that's great advice, and very helpful to anyone who's watching this. Um, the other thing I wanted to do, I forgot to introduce myself in the
Oh
beginning. So
yeah.
I'm Nicole Weiner, and I am the Director of Marketing and Client Services for Field Worker. And, since Field Worker is a technology company, and we help organizations like yours, in the health, social services, care organizations type industry, I have to ask the question of, how do you use technology? How does technology help you, in your day to day?
Um, so for me, and I'm a firm believer in, if used correctly, technology can really change the game, especially for nonprofits. When we look at our resources, we are so limited. So making strategic investments in our programs and how we manage our programs, um, is something that benefits us completely in the long run. So some of the things that we like to do with our technology, because when you boil it down to our services, we do have staff, but our volunteers do the work. So we're really connectors, and we really take that and manage that information and all of that data to connect people is kind of what we do on our
Right.
office on the day-to-day. So how do we best do that and do that the most efficient way? And it's 2021, it's not paper and telephone anymore. There's ways that we can automate things and mobilize more volunteers at a time and reach more people that we did invest in over the last year, and it's dividends in return for us, and that we're just able to help so many more people when you invest in that and use it correctly, and cuts down, so then our staff members can do more with the little that we have. And being in nonprofits, you speak to anyone who's working in those nonprofits, you're expected to do a lot with nothing,
Right.
which is okay. And once, when you invest in technology, and I know some of the services that a field worker provides, it just makes it so much more accessible, especially, in this digital age where we need to connect and get that information and use it. That's where it makes it all possible. And we're far removed from where we take it down on the phone and write it on paper and throw it in a pile and then put it in the
Right.
bin and someone else does it. So you just have to adapt in it. And for us, it just makes all of the difference when we look at the amount of people that we can help. So do we want to help 2,000 people? Do we want to help 4,000 people? What's that going to take? And it's not, we don't have unlimited resources here, although I would love it. So being able to harness that power, it just, for us, we've been able to see how it's helped our impact in our community footprint. And it's especially for volunteers. I'm of the age where, like, if it doesn't happen here, it's harder to get to. I do live off of my phone, so making even volunteerism more accessible, it's really a win-win for everybody. So we dipped our toes in the water, and we're not going back over here. We're
Glad to hear
jumping in.
it. So just also wanted to ask you if there's a message you'd like to share with our audience, to leave them, with a message, what would that be?
So I guess our message and the focus of we deal all with connection. So, even if you're not part of our organization, everyone has been isolated in some way, shape, or form, given if they're a senior, if they're living alone. So, reach out and try to connect. You never know how powerful a phone call is, just to check in, catch up, and just see how people are doing. And I think that we'd all be the better for it if we would kind of take that time and really just think about, how do we connect with people around us, or in our family, or a neighbor, doesn't have, many relatives or loved ones around. It's just important that, you take that 5 minutes out of your day, because really what we see it here, it changes people's lives. And that's something that you can do really easily right from your own home, or right in your own neighborhood. So, now more than ever, we need each other. So be the first one to extend that friendly hello or hi, or do you need anything? We all need to do more helping one another, and you'll be better for it.
Oh, that's great. Again, thank you so much, Megan, for taking the time to talk with me today. And, I think everything that we discussed is so relevant, and what you and your organization are doing is just amazing and so helpful to the community. So I just wish you the best. And obviously, if there's anything we can ever do to help you, we're here. And I hope that you'll get some people reaching out, after seeing this interview.
Oh, definitely. More the merrier. We always can find ways to partner here. And I want to thank you, Nicole, for your time and all the wonderful work that you guys do over there at Field Worker AI. So no, thank you for having me and giving us this platform. We truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime.